Okay, well, welcome to Microsoft. As Ryan said, my name is Brandon Murdoch. I am a software engineer in the identity division. I am the lead engineer on something called Active Directory B2C, which is our consumer offering. I might touch on that a little bit, but this is going to be a slightly more general talk about what's coming and preparing for what's coming next. A little bit of my background, because some people might know my name. I hope not. It's usually never good. I was the lead architect on the government gateway in the UK for 8 years. And then I was one of the original architects on something called Verify. And normally that sends people into despair. But yeah, a lot of the learning, I've been in the space for a long time, a lot of that learning, a lot of that sort of evolving view of identity is what led me to join Microsoft 4 years ago and start this journey. So there we go. So how do we enable productivity without compromising security? This has been a very, very difficult challenge. Users want to be productive. Security gets in the way. Security is seen as an inhibitor. So at Microsoft, we're starting to think about, how do we create secure productivity? We know technology is a disruptive force. It's enabling new business models. It's opening new revenue streams. But key to doing that, and it enables new digital transformation. In order to do that, we need security, privacy, and compliance. And they need to be at the heart of that. And as people bring new devices, apps, and data into the organization, organizations need new ways of protecting those assets. And we're at Microsoft, sorry, I keep on failing, let me adjust it to stay. Is that okay? So we at Microsoft are engineering platforms with security inherently built in, making security a first order within the system, so we can provide these seamless, low friction systems that enable productivity but actually have the security properties that organizations want to be able to open themselves up to these new opportunities that the mobile first, cloud first will bring. Okay, so to help us deliver systems and platforms that customers trust, we talk around 5 principles: security, privacy and control, compliance, transparency, and reliability. And I just want to touch on each one of those briefly. So security, we are very serious about security at Microsoft. We spend billions of dollars a year ensuring that our platforms and the processes that underpin those platforms are secure and robust. We annually review our overall security posture, but every feature that goes in is reviewed and vetted and monitored. Privacy and control is also fundamentally important to us. Customer data is customer data, whether it sits in the Microsoft cloud or on your on-premise servers, your data centers, it is yours. We will provide tooling that actually helps give transparency and control of that data and management of that data, but it is your data. Compliance. I think you've seen that we are, through interactions with many governments, many large organizations, we've been very involved in compliance and regulatory bodies. I'm sure people are familiar with the ongoing, well, I think it's just come to an end, with the Department of Justice in the US around access to emails in Ireland. We have stood on the side of our customers, and we will defend that, and we take that to heart. Again, that kind of talks into transparency. We're trying to be transparent about everything we do. Everything we do in the cloud is auditable, verifiable, and transparent to our customers and to regulators, and we invite regulators in to vet and actually assert that we are correct. So our unique approach. So first of all, we have a platform. We are building secure, reliable, scalable platforms with world-class availability and reliability. Second of all, we're actually underpinning those platforms with the intelligence that we get from our global threat monitoring and the insights that we get from various sources around the world. And then thirdly, but not least, our partners. We are trying to create a vibrant ecosystem around our platforms, and particularly around our identity platforms, that enable partners to innovate and actually raise the bar across the industry. So why is identity important? Okay, we know cybersecurity attacks are a huge headache for organizations. The nature of the cybersecurity attacks are changing. Attackers are finding new ways. Rather than breaching the network, we saw them breaching credentials. And the data has told us that actually 81% of breaches are caused by credential theft. Okay, why is this? Well, credentials are vulnerable. Passwords are a very, very weak form of authentication. people are goal and task orientated, right? If we can use the same password with the same credential in multiple places, we will do. It just makes things easier and more convenient for us. And what we've seen is that 73% of passwords are duplicates. That means people are using the same credential and the same password across multiple services and applications. We also know that employees are using a large number of non-approved applications, especially SaaS applications. They allow easy access anywhere, anytime. And on average, our data tells us that 17 applications, the average worker uses 17 SaaS applications that are not sanctioned by corporate IT. Okay. Yep. That stopped working. Okay, we'll do it this way. Okay, so let's step back for a minute and look at this tectonic shift we're seeing. Yeah, we've always had users, devices, apps, and data. Users were authorized and sanctioned by the IT department. Yeah, they were given devices by IT that they could use, and then they used applications that they were granted access to by IT. And that was all within the confines of the enterprise, within that network perimeter. That has been, that's the way it's been for a long time. But what we're seeing is this change. The world has changed. We're now seeing this proliferation of SaaS applications, applications that sit outside the corporate boundary. And we've seen users drive towards these apps because it makes them productive. It makes their jobs easier, it's more convenient, and it facilitates this mobile way of working that we see the world adopting. So we see lots of mobile and personal devices, tablets, phones. We're now seeing personal assistants and all these things making their way. People want to work from airports, coffee shops, from home. And with this has come a proliferation of identities. I have organizational identities for accessing organizational accounts and corporate resources. I have social media accounts. I have identities that I've established with the likes of Amazon and various other people I interact with on the web. And these identities are proliferated. I have used several passwords across the same ones. I've used same email addresses across them. It's convenient and it's easy for you, but it creates an absolute problem and a nightmare because compromise in one leads likely to compromise in other of these. So this is kind of what the modern world looks like out there beyond your network perimeter. You have identities interacting with SaaS services, collaborating, exchanging information. People want to work with people. They want to collaborate. They want to exchange in real time. And people have found a way of doing it that actually means corporate has lost control. So what is the Microsoft vision? We foresee having one strong identity at the center of your business. As we talk to customers and we see them wanting to move to the cloud and embrace the strengths that the cloud brings, we still see them trying to lift network security into the cloud. That no longer works. Identity is the control plane. Identity becomes the point at which you protect your business and protect your assets. This is not playing nicely. So at Microsoft, within the identity space, you see us talking and using this term a lot, identity as the control plane. And I think this is the fundamental shift that we see and we're encouraging people to take. We are not the only ones doing this. We have industry partners like Google and Amazon who are doing the same thing. This is an industry shift away from network-based security to this new identity-based control plane. So what is it about? Well, it's about proving users are authorized before they get access to applications and data, right? So we will protect you at the front door. This is your first line of defense for your organization, and it's used wherever you are with whatever device you're accessing. We also acknowledge that security has to be simple. It has to be seamless. There is this trade-off between productivity and security. If we can combine the two and actually provide secure productivity through simplified access and convenience, actually users will stop circumventing and trying to get around the safeguards and the protections we put in place. Unfortunately, there is no quick win in getting rid of passwords. Passwords are not going to disappear overnight. They're going to be around for a while. There is a huge industry move away from them, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but they're not going to go anywhere. So what we can do now is actually safeguard those credentials, make sure that passwords are protected, those credentials are safe and secured and protected. And that's where machine learning and some of the other stuff we have around identity protection comes in, to see and monitor how credentials are being used in the wild. Very annoying. Okay. This identity control plane has to be able to protect a hybrid environment. It needs to be able to protect applications on premises and in the cloud. It needs to be able to protect applications running across multiple cloud vendors in a heterogeneous environment. So, and as well as the line of business apps. No, okay. So, just to show hands, who's heard of Active Directory? Okay, that's good. Who's heard of Azure Active Directory? That's something, why are we doing this? Okay, so Azure Active Directory is Microsoft's multi-tenant, cloud-based directory with identity and access management that combines core directory services, application management, and identity provisioning and self-service. It is not Active Directory running in the cloud. Azure Active Directory was designed from the ground up as a hyperscale cloud identity management capability. It started off underpinning our Office 365 and SharePoint capabilities. And through interactions with sort of a large number of governments and large enterprises, we realized that this is a capability that everybody needed, and it's evolved into this standalone offering that we now have as part of our EMS suite. It's becoming feature-rich. It's a very fast-moving, agile service that we have. As you can see, we've got a couple of key things here. Azure Connect, allowing us to actually create that hybrid approach so cloud can actually help protect the on-premise applications, the on-premise environment. Yeah, we have B2B collaboration. We also have Azure B2C, which is a fabulous product. And we're continually evolving and enhancing this capability. As an engineering team, we're one of the most customer-led engineering teams in Microsoft. I myself work out of the UK. I'm here presenting to you. This is not something that Microsoft engineers used to do. We're having to learn this muscle and go through the motions. And it's important because actually it makes us more connected with our customers. We more deeply understand our customer requirements and the problems that our customers are facing. And several of the capabilities that we've got here have come out of that deep customer learning and understanding, such as privileged identity management, access reviews, dynamic groups, Connect Health. These are things that we learned and took on board from working with customers and understanding their problems. So, what are customers doing? Well, we see customers securing access, right? This is providing easy access and secure access to applications anywhere from any device. We see people using it for provisioning now, to help support and make the join and move and leaver process more agile and more reflective of the actual state of the organization. Collaboration is a big thing, right? Collaboration is no longer just within the enterprise, it's about partners and that extended enterprise perimeter. We see people using that to protect and enable partners to actually act and interact with their employees. Obviously, there's resource protection. Another big thing is meeting regulation. As more and more regulations change and adapt to the cloud and the way the cloud is working, we're seeing that a lot of people are using and adopting our technology to actually help them meet those regulations and push some of that burden onto the Microsoft engineering teams and the Microsoft service capability. And then obviously the really big one is single sign-on, being able to provide a single login experience across the corporate estate, whether that be SaaS-based applications or applications running on-premise. Okay, so to talk about our design imperatives. As I said, Azure Active Directory was designed from the ground up to support hyperscale scenarios, whether they be B2B, obviously traditionally B2E, and then B2C, which is the business to consumer offering that we have. It was designed for heterogeneous environments. We want to work across any cloud, across any device. And that has taken considerable amounts of engineering and understanding and opening up as an organization to understand what else is out there and to embrace things that are non-Microsoft. I don't know if anybody saw that we announced the first Linux-based operating system the other day for part of our IoT Sphere suite. So we are opening up, and that's fundamentally important to actually creating this control plane. This is going to become the utility layer for what's next. And in order to do that, we have to work across any environment, across any cloud. Agile and transparent. Everything we do needs to be transparent. It needs to be verifiable and auditable. But more than just verifiable and auditable, we want our customers to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we believe that helps them. And if it's not helping them, to actually take feedback and improve those processes and improve our product. And key to that is being agile, showing that we can actually listen, take that feedback, and within a very short cycle, make that happen and get it out as part of a global service capability. And then the key thing is obviously building services that work with products and devices that people love. I've never owned, I should probably say it out loud, I've never owned a Windows PC in my life. I am a Mac user. I've had iPhones since they first started. Actually, I think some of the best experiences I've had on my Mac and my iPhone are Microsoft products, such as Office and some of the other stuff we're doing. So it's embracing this new world of work, and we are a service company, and identity engineering has really, really kind of gripped the bull by the horns and actually taken this forward. Our architectural imperatives as an organization. I am one of the engineering leadership team, and we review this and actually go back and we talk about this quite a lot internally. And this is our kind of North Star. This is our guide to what we deliver and why we deliver. So everything we do is open standards based. We participate actively in a lot of the standards bodies now. We're active contributors. And we work with a number of our competitors to actually make sure that what we do is done in an open and consumable way. It needs to be policy-based and declarative. We don't want necessarily people writing code, creating problems. We want it to be policy-based and declarative, and that's a key ambition that we have. Now, we don't have that everywhere. Some of the stuff is still there where you need to do a bit of massaging, but we're moving away. We're spending a lot of effort engineering that to make sure that that doesn't happen. Again, verifiable and auditable. Everything that we do needs to be transparent and traceable. Proactive intelligence. Well, we have a huge threat monitoring capability. We get tons of signals from Microsoft itself, but we also partner with a lot of other organizations to make sure that we're sharing signals. And we use those signals to actually protect the service and make predictive, to predict what's happening and to see the patterns and trends, to actually provide alerts and information and feedback around what is happening. Obviously, that takes some sort of reactive stuff, but actually it's starting to move towards that proactive intelligence driving security in the cloud. And then, of course, cross-domain, multi-source meta identity system. It needs to work with everything, whether it's Microsoft or not. Again, that all kind of ties back to that open standards-based approach that we have. And sorry, I should have said, if anybody's any questions, please feel to interrupt me, and I much prefer an interactive thing. So if you have a question, there's a burning, put your hand up and ask, or shout out, whatever. Open standards. It's funny, when I first started on Government Gateway and was working to verify, it was very much based around standards. We saw the power and the benefit of it. Microsoft has had a bit of a checkered history with open standards. It's not that they didn't necessarily believe in them, but they do create some bit of drag. So people are saying, the whole productivity thing. People wanted to get on and get stuff done. They wanted to deliver products. So they went and rushed out. we've seen a real change in that. As an engineering organization, standards come first. We want to participate, we want to contribute, and we want to grow. So everything we do is based around standards. And within the identity space, we're seeing this emergence of standards. Some old standards such as SAML, which has been around, that's kind of Enterprise Federation Protocol, has been around for a while, to some of the newer standards like the W3C Web Authn API, I'll talk about that shortly, and some of the other ones that are there. An industry colleague of mine, a guy called Ian Glazer, who's the VP at Salesforce, did a presentation about a year ago, and initially said that part of his presentation was that identity was having its TCP moment. And if you remember the old days, we used to have to buy network cards, and you bought a network protocol and a network stack. And if you had a different stack to my stack, we couldn't talk. Well, that all changed. And over the years, that got homogenized and actually built in. So we still buy network stacks as part of the operating system. It's now part of the hardware that we buy. We no longer think about that. It's all standardized, and it's opened up this world. Identity is heading there. I think we have got some mature standards. We've got newer sort of modern authentication protocols such as OpenID Connect. SAML doesn't really work well for mobile devices, but it has the security, semantics, and properties that enterprises wanted around safeguarding resources. But it didn't support some of the modern authorization frameworks approaches that things like OAuth that we saw emerge with mobile and native applications. So recently, well, I say recently, 2 years ago, but it's still kind of building ahead of steam, OpenID Connect came out that actually bought those security semantics of SAML and added them to the OAuth authorization framework, so that identity and authorization can be expressed through this one capability. Open data, another important standard about sharing data. It standardizes the format in which data is expressed and shared. JSON's another data format that is used widely on the web now because it's lightweight and terse compared to XML. We actively use that and are embracing that as a way to actually extend and expose our data capabilities. SCIM is a standards provisioning protocol for supporting that join and leave mover process. So part of the process allows you to use these protocols to actually interact with directories, to provision people and remove people from directories, and importantly, to be able to move and migrate between directories. So one of the things we're trying to do with standards is to avoid any perception of lock-in. Actually, we want to build the best service. We want people to use our service because it is the best service out there. But if you're not happy with it, actually, there are ways of migrating away easily. We don't want to lock you in. We want to feel that you're locked in. And by using these open standards, we facilitate that, and hopefully people see that we're not behaving in that manner. So I've mentioned passwords. Passwords are weak credentials. Ryan mentioned that as well. What is coming next? And I think one of the most important open standards that's out there at the moment is coming from an organization called the FIDO Alliance, which stands for Fast Identity Online. And what they were trying to do, and what they are doing, and it's succeeding, is bringing strong multi-factor authentication, private public key authentication to the masses. So there is let me go to the slide here. We might jump forward and then might go back. There are a couple of key organizations around FIDO, right? It's about securing on-premises and the web. It's about secure mobile credentials, and it's about secure authentication. And FIDO, this is a subset of all the main players in FIDO. It is a huge alliance. It has got some of the largest companies in the world now backing it. But a couple of the guys in here, like Knock Knock Labs and Yubico, have brought out some very interesting two-factor authentication devices. I don't know, has anybody heard of Yubico? Yeah. So this is where things are evolving. At Microsoft, we have Windows Hello, right? That is a FIDO compliant credential. Unfortunately, some of the technology in this isn't FIDO compliant. We're working with Apple, and Apple are starting to discuss how to actually make the biometric authentication in Apple devices FIDO compliant. But we see it in a lot of the Android devices. Google have been a huge proponent in that. So these devices are going to allow for these devices are going to allow for this kind of seamless interaction. So a good example would be I log into a website. Currently I have to put a username and password in. I might have multi-factor all switched on it, so I get an SMS to my phone. What will happen with these FIDO credentials is that I go to a website, I master authenticate, I get a notification on my phone, and hopefully it's Face ID, I can look up to it, or I can push my Ubico key, and then I'm accessed. I don't have to present anything to that website. I don't have to enter anything into the website. And FIDO's been around for a while, it's making head, but the key thing that actually happened last month is that the W3 WebAuth API went to candidate recommendation. This is an API specification that's been accepted and is going to be implemented by Microsoft, Google, Mozilla, Safari, that allows FIDO-based credentials to interact directly with the web browser through standard APIs. So you, as an application provider, as a developer, can now actually have somebody authenticate with a FIDO credential through simple API mechanisms rather than having this kind of convoluted SDK installed approach on devices. And I think this is going to be a major change. As we've already begun work, I think there's a hard push to get it through to final recommendation. I think when that happens, a lot of the browsers out there, the main browsers, will already be using FIDO. And this is kind of the tipping point that I think is required to actually start to make this change away from passwords. That doesn't, I think the other half is they're still trying to help people change their mental models. I think it's been hard enough currently to help people understand about strong passwords and password hygiene and password management. Getting them to change to this is still a thing. So I think the technology side is going to be there. I think there's still a whole lot of work to do on the user aspects and how we help people transition from this kind of old password-based world into this kind of newer device-based authentication world. So, from a purely selfish Microsoft point of view, what has embracing and championing open standards done for us as a company as a whole, but specifically as an identity organization? Well, it's allowed us to support a vast array and ever-growing number of identity providers. We federate with Facebook, Google, Amazon. We have a whole lot of on-premise capabilities. We have a whole lot of social. And one of the things that we do have as well is this ability to federate with people that aren't traditionally identity providers. There are verification providers out there, people who will verify identities but not necessarily a certain identity. So it's allowed us to actually start to create a vibrant ecosystem where partners can come together and collaborate to actually make an identity determination. And that has happened because of open standards. It's also meant we've been able to integrate with 300,000 plus applications. Now, some of those are line of business applications on premise. A large majority of them are SaaS applications or applications that are out there outside the corporate perimeter. Interestingly enough, our largest number is Google Apps, Workday. But that has been the benefit of open standards for us as an organization, but more importantly, as an industry and as a capability where we want to actually offer this new sort of utility layer that offers this control plane. This has been the benefit of it. So I just want to talk about a couple of the key capabilities we have within Azure Active Directory that have made this kind of, that enables this control plane and kind of talks to this control plane and allows this hybrid model that we know people are going to have. Not everybody can move to the cloud straight away. Not everybody is born in the cloud. I think this hybrid model is going to be around for a while, if it ever goes. I mean, other speakers might have a different view, but I think there are certain things that companies are going to want to keep on-premise, within their control. And I think we have to acknowledge that, and we have to make that happen in a seamless way. So we have application proxy, which allows your identity to be protected by Azure Active Directory, but actually provide authentication and security capability for your on-premise applications. And we have an array of connectors that allow you to connect to various services and types of services that might reside on-prem. One of the feedback we got from customers that actually they wanted authentication that supported header-based authentication. So we actually talked to Ping Access, and last year we announced a partnership with Ping, where we now have connectors that are specific to Ping Access that deeply integrate with Ping to allow broader and deeper integration with line of business applications that are on-premise, rather than creating some of our capabilities. So this has become a very strong story for us. We see a lot of hybrid scenarios coming up where people protect the SaaS applications, they're able to move to the cloud and then provide this on-premise. So Active Directory is providing a single authentication and identity capability for all your applications, whether they reside in the cloud or on-premise. So one of the other things we found was that maybe, I don't know if you've heard the term shadow IT. I mentioned that there are a lot of applications that people are using that just do not have visibility within the organization. People have gone and opened up Box accounts or Salesforce accounts. One of the things we're trying to do is actually provide to give visibility to corporate IT of these applications, but also give them control over these applications. We found within Microsoft itself, we found that users were going and opening up Slack accounts using their corporate credentials. But they weren't their corporate credentials. It was just their Microsoft email address with the password that they'd used. A huge problem. And IT had no visibility to that. Now, if we want to actually go sign up to Slack, we sign up through the access panel. Corporate IT has visibility. They manage the credentials. Slack is federating with us, so that's now taken that problem away. But where there are these cases where they can't, it becomes centrally managed. It allows me to manage in self-service. And this is a capability. Anybody who has an Azure Active Directory tenant has access to this apps panel. That's quite a nice looking, neat apps panel. My one, I think, has got about 500 or 600 apps. We need to do a little bit of work on SaaS to get to scale to actually make it a bit easier to navigate. But it's there, and that's rapidly evolving. That's becoming a central focal point, launch pad for users into this kind of identity control space. Okay, the other big thing that we see with Azure Active Directory is this, the support in the collaboration model we now see in this mobile-first extended perimeter world. People want to interact with their partners. They want to help and enable their partners to interact more efficiently with them. With Active Directory, you can actually invite users into your organization. They can be guest users in your tenant, or they can actually be a federated tenant. We support several models. We allow invites. It allows access to applications that you're running on-premise or applications in the cloud. It allows you to actually use things like conditional access, multi-factor authentication. You can control those partners and their partners' access to your information the same way that you control access to your information that your employees have. It's got a star next to it. I see that's a mistake. It's actually now available. I think it's in public preview or private, but it's now available. Being able to invite users with Google IDs. And there is a lot of work going underway at the moment to allow any other identity provider to be used with B2B federation. Yeah, up until now, somebody had to go create a Microsoft account, or they had to have an account within the corporate ID. We're moving away from that as quickly as we can. Like I said, this is probably the greatest capability within Azure Active Directory. It's near and dear to my heart. So we also acknowledge, and what we're trying to help customers do is engage with their customers in a secure manner. We're trying to prevent insecure systems that are out there. People have knocked up passwords. We see all these breaches that have been